Hello everyone, I'm Doris McMillan and welcome to this edition of Capstone. We have a very special guest. You may remember him as Lieutenant Ed Hall from ABC's daytime drama One Life to Live. Well, here at Howard, we know him as actor, director, teacher, and artist-in-residence Al Freeman Jr. And we're going to talk about his life and times right now. Welcome, Al.
Thank you.
I got to tell everybody, I know Al for how many years, Al?
That many.
That many years.
Yes.
In New York. We used to be neighbors.
As a matter of fact.
It's just amazing how the world just comes full circle. And, of course, we would meet in Washington. Where else is there to be at this point?
Well, everybody meets in Washington. Crossroads of the world, right?
Well, you know something, you have been in New York for so many years. I mean, I can remember the times I used to see you walking down the street, going over to the studio.
I didn't have to cross the street.
Well,
either.
that's right, you didn't. You know, to go to the studio to do the soaps.
Yeah.
And I said, there he goes again.
Captain Ed Hall.
Captain, we made you a lieutenant.
Yes, you did. Well,
Please
started out as a
forgive.
lieutenant, but then it kept...
I
got promoted.
Got promoted, yes.
Yeah.
You were on that show for how long?
17 years.
How did you get the part in the first place? And was that your desire to be on a soap?
No, but it worked out pretty good. I don't really know. I was in between jobs, as actors often are, and they asked me to do this part. They created it. I was dismayed when they called it Ed Hall because I have an actor friend, Ed Hall, which a lot of people may know. He's a very fine actor, as a matter of fact. And I said, you can't do that. He's my neighbor, and you can. And they said, no. It's a nice black generic name, and they continued to use it. Well, it was only supposed to be there for about 8 months or something like that. And then suddenly it dawned on me that having a steady paycheck every week was a lot different than freelancing and
It was like
getting
having a real job.
Yeah, working for, well, you know, you're lucky you get a picture. I was on a picture for 6 months in Yugoslavia, which was pretty good also. But then, you know, that freelance is sort of, well, it has its spaces, doesn't it? So
Yes, we know.
the weekly check began to give me some thoughts that maybe there were some things that I could pick and choose rather than having to take a job just to be a job. And we had a lot of input into the show in those days.
Well, at that time, there weren't that many blacks on soaps anyway.
That's right. Ellen Holly, who was there, and Lillian Heyman began the show, I think around 68 or something like that. And they had a sort of pinky storyline because she's very light-skinned.
Right.
And all that. And, they decided that storyline had run its course and they should get Pinky Ellen Holly married, and, and here I come.
Right.
And but as I say, that was somewhere around 1970 when black policemen were not in very good repute in this land, pigs and all that sort of thing they were being called. And it gave me a little pause. I had to consider why. I mean, why be a black cop on television?
Right.
Especially at a time when the headlines were screaming things, especially in black newspapers, about police brutality and especially how black officers were a bit more brutal, trying to prove.
Well, you were kind of crusty too, also, your character.
But I hope fair, because that was the idea. That's how I got to it. I did know a black deputy inspector on the New York Police Department who was a very, very fair man, tough. And I think he headed something like Manhattan North or some very large area there. And he'd been on the force for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. And he was in charge, I recall, once of a rally, some kind of political something, with young people smoking things that they should not have in the park and saying all kinds of derisive things about the authorities and the police and all that. And being in charge of the security for the city for that event, he decided that he had his plainclothesmen going through there to protect life and limb, but that as long as they confined their remarks and their behavior into that particular area for the length of the time that the rally was on, that it would be okay, whatever they did, as long as they didn't hurt anybody.
Right.
And as soon as it was over, they had to leave the park and they had to behave themselves, comport themselves as like any other citizen. But it was an innovation in that kind of police work, and there were no incidents, and it was a very large rally, which he handled very well. So he was.
So obviously you spent some time with him.
Yes, but not officially on his job, just
Right.
Socially.
And that helped you develop your character?
Yeah, I did. I thought, that he was firm but fair. And surely there were some black policemen at the time who were responsible not only to the general citizenry, but also to black people. How much more effective they could be in seeing that the law was going to be enforced even-handedly. And that was my model for...
How much input did you have in terms of the writing of your part? I know the writers sit in the back of a little room and you read whatever they write. And
Right. Well, during that time, of course, it has changed now, but during that time, it was we had a lot. We had an awful lot to say about it, and many times we could rewrite even whole scenes. We would do it that morning at the rehearsal if some of the content and the context was not quite correct. And being, we were, I guess, the what do they call that? The technical advisors for the colored. We could tell them what was happening.
Right.
And they, in fact, listened.
they did.
And sure, they allowed us to have that kind of input,
But you
which
say
made
things
the
have
show
changed
out.
a lot now.
Oh, yeah. Right now, well, I suppose, as you know, the business has changed enormously. Now it's producers write art and directors who have all the say, and you do things their way or they get somebody else, which I don't think bodes too well for television. It helps them get their things done the way they want.
They keep the control.
Right, and then of course they get all the credit when it works, and
when it doesn't,
off you go.
Right.
Yeah.
When you look at the different soaps now, we have a plethora of black actors and actresses.
Do we?
It would appear that way, depending on what show you watch.
Yeah. Well, I haven't. I must confess, I don't make it a habit of watching soap operas, and no.
You didn't watch it back then. You just
No, I did not. As a matter of fact, well, actually, I had my own. I took the feed, the RF feed, in the house, so that I would watch the dress rehearsal to see what the acting was about and what angles they were getting, and so I could determine what would best sell a particular idea, depending on how they saw it and whether they were cutting away at the time when I was making a huge, wonderful transition, which often happened. And that's when I would see it. I would see it prior to its airing, you know, in the, just the dress rehearsal of that day's work is all I would look at.
Those were some long hours, too, weren't they?
Yeah, well, it was like the Army, hurry up and wait, you know. You had to be there sometimes at 7:15 in the morning, and you would do what they call a dry blocking in a room without cameras and things, where you would get the movement pattern for that day and whatever set you're working on, and then wait. Then there's camera blocking, and you do that for a while, and then wait, and then there's...
You know, you're dispelling the myth that being in a soap opera is glamorous, Ed.
Well, it is not necessarily unglamorous. It does have its moments on the other side of it. And, all the rest accrues too, I guess.
Yeah. Al, it's been, gosh, you said 17 years that you did that.
Yeah.
Was there an opportunity for you to do some of the other things that you wanted to do?
Oh, sure. As a matter of fact, during the same time, I did Malcolm X and Roots 2, which was a surprise to me.
Why?
And, well, when Reuben Cannon, the casting director, called me and said, how would you like to do Malcolm X? I said, I'd love to do Malcolm X. He said, well, we've got Jimmy Jones, who's going to do Alex Haley. And I said, wait a minute. I mean, it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? I mean, Malcolm was 6'4", and Alex is a nice, little, comfortable-sized fellow like myself. I said, maybe, you know, we should do that. He said, no. Malcolm didn't turn you around with his size. He turned you around with his mind. And Aside from that, he said, the directors assured me he'll have everybody else sit down while you stand up.
Okay.
And,
I mean, did you really worry about things like that?
oh, sure. I mean, I saw Malcolm at a rally, and I mean, he was an imposing figure. And I think his stature, his height had something to do with that, although I think Ruben was quite correct. The man was a brilliant intellect. But with just that striding through the streets, he commanded a great deal of attention. You know, and it wasn't just because of his height, it was because of his inner stature. I mean, his sense of himself and purpose and mission and all that. So it came out all right. I mean, they bleached my hair and then dyed it red and did all that stuff, you know, and it came out fine. But that was the time when I was doing the soap, and I was nominated for an Emmy for the soap, and I was also nominated for an Emmy for that particular thing. So I think, though I haven't researched it fully, I like to say as a sort of dim little accolade that there have been no other actors that I can think of who've been nominated for both daytime and nighttime in the same season.
Do you think you ever got typecast being on the soaps? And then said, well, this is all Al Freeman Jr. can do, are soaps?
No, I don't think so. I never really felt that, although subsequent to that, I did do the first Perry Mason Returns after so many years, and I did play a cop on that. But, I don't think so. I did some theater pieces and all that. I don't think I was typecast that way, but I do think that sometimes people do get, some of the work on soaps gets a little slick. I try to avoid that. I'm not sure I did, but...
When you say slick, what do you mean?
Well, the writing is a little glib sometimes, and they don't like to spend the time with the cameras and the studio time to allow the things to flow in a very real sort of way. They try to speed it up, and they cut things from one... Rarely do you see a shot on soaps, I think, where there's someone just doing what you're doing now, listening as it happens.
Well, that takes too much time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
see, and well, it gets to be a little tedious from that standpoint.
Was there a point in that 17 years that one morning you said, the heck with this, let me go do something else?
Many times, oftentimes, and then the paycheck came.
And say, let's be real.
Which made my wife very happy, and it allowed me to buy a lot of little toys and trinkets, mostly, well, video equipment, camera stuff and all that I used to buy.
So you got a chance to practice what you were doing every day also,
well,
on your
course,
time.
Yeah, with my own stuff. My idea, of course, was to revolutionize the television industry with those grand shots and procedures that, of course, are all mine, very innovative, and that hasn't happened
I was
quite
going to
yet.
ask you about that.
Not yet.
But you're approaching.
We're working on it, yeah.
Let's talk about stage. It's a whole different medium. Do you prefer that to television?
I do.
Why?
And I don't. I do because, you know, you're one-on-one with the audience.
Right.
And there's no apparatus or any of that
I mean,
stuff.
you don't mind those eyes, all those eyes sitting there looking
Absolutely not. That's the whole point of it. You know, when I get worried is when those eyes are not there. You know, it's you and the audience. It's you with the ideas that you're carrying everybody else's work. You know, it's all the designers, all your fellow performers. You have the ball. You throw it to them. So it's sort of a movement of ideas, and you are a large direct part of that, which is not true in some of the camera media, where the apparatus is interposed, depending on the size of the shot, the angle, depending on when they cut from you to some other view. They control the flow of ideas, you know, so that's a little frustrating, but it's also, there's a very satisfying part in that, too. You know, there are some wonderful film actors, like Lou Gossett, for instance, who's superb film actor, I think. And there are others.
What does it take to have staying power in this industry? From your point of view, I know from the news perspective, it's something else. But from the acting, what does it take?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that question. I think you know,
Is it a good agent?
definitely not a good agent.
Oh.
You know, there are. I mean, you know, all of us build a sort of audience constituency. You know, there are people who remember you from things that you have done, and they see your name or an image of you appearing, and they remember that you did something that pleased them, and they will probably turn it there. I think certainly if you lose that constituency,
You're out of work.
You're out. That's it, of course. How you maintain that, I don't know. I think probably it's has something to do with doing quality work for the best you can every time you're at the starting line. It has something to do with the kind of pieces that you are asked to do and that you lend your efforts toward. Some pieces have no content, as you know.
Right.
I mean, well, of course, I've done very few of those.
Right.
St. Peter should know what
Right.
But it has to do with that. I think it has to do with being identified with ideas that are of substance, I think, that people remember most.
What, of all of the works that you've done, television and stage, what has been the favorite thing that you've done? The piece that you want people to remember you for above all else?
Well, that's a difficult one. I have been lucky to have a crack at some very large people with large ideas. I played Bobby Seale once in the Chicago 7 trial.
You better stop playing these people who keep getting killed.
Yeah, right, well.
Okay.
Even I've played a few who are dead already.
Right.
Like I just did briefly in a small Bill Greaves film, W.E.B. Du Bois, where they put a skull cap and, you know, they do all that kind of thing with makeup and all that. I'm not sure. I know I've had some things that I am fairly satisfied, that like Malcolm, that I didn't violate him at least, and I'm sure there are many actors who could have done them better. And, but,
Are you real critical of yourself? I mean, do you look at something that you've done on television, for instance, and then take the knife and dissect it and rip yourself to pieces?
Well, either it works or it doesn't. And I try to be as objective as I can when I view my work.
Well, when does objectivity just run into just outright just critical, just major criticism of yourself? Or do you do that? I know a lot of actors and actresses that I know sit there and they just pick themselves apart. I said, why do you do that? You've got other people to do that.
Well, I think I'm not unique in this. I think I learn more from mistakes than I do from successes. And the things that I see myself doing incorrectly, that is to say, the idea is not clear, then there's something wrong with what I've done. And I try to learn from that. So I guess when I critique my own work, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for ideas that I missed, that I didn't quite perform correctly.
Rejection. That's real big in your industry.
Yes.
How have you dealt with it?
Well, there are a lot of young people who come to me and say they want to be actors, and what do they do, and what should they do, and how do they go about it? And I think what I tell them is, I think I live by, which is that you have to be absolutely certain that being an actor is the thing you want to be, and you are goal-oriented, and you are very clear on that, and you're clear within your own psyche, within your own soul, that that's what you want to be. Then you can be anything or do anything to maintain your body and soul, because you have that particular goal in mind. You know what it is, and it's in place, and it's clear. And you do whatever you have to do in order to get there.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean,
doing
first
whatever
of all,
you have to do.
You have to stay alive.
Okay.
You have to maintain yourself so that you are able to work when something comes around. That means taking care of yourself, taking care of your body. You must fill up your store, your knowledge of the world as you go through it.
And you have to work 50,000 different jobs.
Perhaps, if that's what it takes. But you're not defined by any one of those. You're defined by your own goal.
Okay.
So you can wash cars, you can
Wait tables.
Wait table, you can do anything. Sell dishware, you can do anything. But you define yourself.
You know, I wanted to be an actress once.
Oh, you are, of course.
What? Well, now don't tell that to the news community. But I remember going to college saying, I'm going to major in theater. And I told my mom, I said, I am going to be a famous actress.
Yes.
And you know what she told me? Get a real job.
Yeah, right. Well, my mother said the same thing.
You didn't listen to her.
Well, absolutely. Well, yes, I did, because she sent me when I went to college the first time. I was a pre-law major, only because she said, "What do you want to study?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure." And she had the application. I was in Ohio with my father, and then she said, "Well, how about law?" I said, "Sure, fine." And so I go off to Los Angeles City College to be a pre-law major, and I hooked up with a little theater group on the campus, and Economics 101 and History 1.
The stuff that makes your eyes glaze over.
Mighty dull stuff. And I was spending more time with Hillel. It was a little Jewish theater group, and we did our own plays and things. Then I was studying all those other things, and it was during the Korean War, and I was about to get drafted anyway, but I knew I was going to be on scholastic probation. So before my grades got home, I enlisted in the Air Force. And while I was there, I befriended a young fellow who was a theater arts major at SC. And
that was the beginning of the end.
Well, he had some techniques and some things that were learned, were taught to him. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to learn that.
Did you ever think you'd be teaching it?
No.
Okay.
No, and...
Here you are at Howard University?
Yeah. Right, here I am at Howard University. And it's been, it has its ups and downs. I think I described it once when someone asked me, as what Harry Truman said, a splendid sort of misery. You know, it is really very gratifying every now and then when you see one of the people you're talking to, little light bulb go off there, and you go, oh my God.
And then it translates on the stage?
Yeah, that's, well, it unfortunately doesn't happen that often. But,
I won't tell him you said that. Well, what do you have to say to the students that you're working with? They have an excellent opportunity to just gain a wealth of information and experience just from what you have been doing all of your life.
Well,
how can they receive it better if it's possible? What can they do?
What can they do? Well, pay attention, that's one thing. Listen. As you know, acting, one of the tenets of acting is to listen.
Do you have to be smart to be an actor, actress?
You cannot be a dummy. So therefore, I mean, you know, the general public sometimes has well, some people do have an attitude that actors are just rather self-centered. They don't know a lot of things about the world. I don't know if they still think that after going through Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, right.
But as a matter of fact, well, that we won't go into that. In any case, no, you cannot. Well, actor has, what does he have? He has his voice, his body, and his mind. And there are, all those things go into your toolbox and make an instrument, you know, so that you can't be, you've got to use them all.
Does this actor have any regrets?
Regrets? I have a few, but then again, too few
to mention. How did I know you were going to do that? Seriously.
No, there may be some things that I would probably have hoped that I would have done differently.
What might they have been?
I'm not going to tell you that, Doris.
Well,
I mean, well...
I asked you a very straightforward question. I think I deserve a straightforward answer. You can tell me, look, tell me one.
Well, you know, when the going gets tough over there in fine arts, when I'm lugging my equipment up the cardiac hill out here, up the thing there, I say, well, you know what, I could be sailing in the Bahamas right now on my boat instead of getting a heart attack going up this hill right here.
Are you pleased right now with the quality of your life?
Am I pleased? Well, I'm not displeased.
You know, because you talked about earlier having the goal, and I guess if you're going to be an actor, actress, if you set that goal like you've suggested, these potential folk ought to do. Does the goal start from here and end up where you are now, or does it go beyond that? Do the goals change?
Well, if I understand you correctly, I think where you are is certainly along the path of where you're supposed to be. It's whether I'm satisfied with it or not, I never really gave it that much thought. There are things that I'm pleased with, things that I'm satisfied with.
Where would you like to be in another year?
In another year?
What would you like to be doing?
Well, I think I'd like to get into some production. I think during the doing soldiers play here was a wonderful experience for me. And by the way, it was also an interesting way, I think, of saying to the students some of the things about how you do things, because I was there doing them with them. And they could see me with all my warts hanging out, and God knows I made a lot of mistakes, and they could see that. Right. And we had a grand time together, and I thought we developed a sort of ensemble that was really quite satisfying for me, and I hope for them.
We have to go, but just quickly, what's the next production that you have in mind?
Well, there is one that is pending now that I cannot talk about.
Well, in that case, we're totally out of time. Thanks a lot, Al.
Thank you.
Al Freeman Jr. That's all the time that we have for today. Thank you for joining us here on Capstone. And by the way, if you have anything you'd like to see, or if you'd just like to say hello, why don't you give us a call, write us, our address 2222 4th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. 259. I'm Doris McMillan. We'll see you next time on Capstone.